Nice to be here. How are you? Good. I want to thank the Lord for a really cool thing that's happened to me in the last couple of weeks. He's healed me. He's touched me. I was having a situation where I went overseas and I came down with a bit of an ear infection, came back, didn't know what was wrong with me. Doctors doing all these tests, pulling blood, and they don't know what's wrong with you. They like to jab you. You notice that? You know, what's wrong with you? Stab you. So I felt like a pincushion. My doctor apologised. They're doing all these tests right up to the what do you call them? The Draculas, pathologists. That's the nice word, isn't it, for them? I prefer Draculas. Rock up to the Draculas and they go, "Oh, I haven't done this one before." They're having to look up in the book how to do it. You know, how do I do this one? Oh, you know, and me being the brave one I am, I always have to lay down, assume the position. I just don't muck around. I say I've got to lay down. I'm not going to try to be brave. I've gotten over that. I admit that. And they do all these tests and send them off to here, there, and everywhere. And then after I'm past the ear infection, we diagnose it. My doctor suspects I have shingles. Fun. I've never had shingles before. I thought it was just like a bit of a rash thing going on. What's going on? I thought I was bitten by a spider, actually, out on the farm because I had to clean up all these spiders. And we think you got shingles. People pray for me. I don't have those pain symptoms. 2 weeks later, I'm feeling really good. So I'm really grateful because it was dragging me. I'm going, "Lord, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do?" And he just told me, "You trust me with your health. You trust me with your health." You know how funny how the Lord trusts me with your finances, trust me with your health, trust me with your life, trust me, trust me, trust me, trust me with your family, trust me with your kids, trust me, trust me, trust me with your stuff. The other morning I was up at, I think, 6 o'clock in the morning eating my oats, 1.5 cups of oats I have, porridge. And I noticed there was a little note on the table there, and I pulled it up and I had a look at it. It said that Evan's Christmas party or Christmas concert was in 2 days' time. And I alerted that to my wife because I heard nothing about it, and she was like in shock. "What, it's this week? I thought it was next week." I said, "No." It's caught us all by surprise, this whole Christmas thing. Am I the only one? It's just suddenly it's December and suddenly we're talking Christmas. Has anyone been caught off guard? Yeah. And I've noticed some very stressed teachers running around lately. Have you noticed how they stressed they look? They're all looking... Sorry, Matt, you're looking very relaxed today. With the exception of Matt, there's all these stressed teachers, you know, as they're trying to get this organised and that organised. So I've got one to rub something in the wound for him this morning. The title of my sermon is "Your Assignment is Due." I used to hate it when teachers would give me homework. And now I'm in a position in my business and stuff where I have some of my students are teachers and I get to assign them homework. I love it. Absolutely love it. If you've got a Bible, turn it to Exodus 2, verse 11. Second book in the Bible. Exodus, which means going out, leaving. Exodus. Chapter 2, verse 11. When you got it, say, "Got it." Yep. Anybody not have it? All right, let's read it. "Now it came to pass in those days, when Moses was grown, that he went out to his brethren and looked at their burdens. And he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his brethren. So he looked this way and that way. And when he saw no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. And when he went out the second day, behold, 2 Hebrew men, when fighting, he said to the one who did the wrong, 'Why are you striking your companion?' Then he said, 'Who made you a prince and a judge over us? Do you intend to kill me as you killed the Egyptian?' So Moses feared and said, 'Surely this thing is known.' When Pharaoh heard of this matter, he sought to kill Moses. But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt at the land of Midian, and he sat down by a well." Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to meet this morning, to read your word, to study it, to learn from you. We ask that you open up our ears, that your presence be amongst us now, that we would hear from you, O Lord, what you're calling us and drawing us to do. As, Lord, you are doing things amongst our midst and changing things within us, Lord, transform us and change us into your glory. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Understanding with the children of Israel at this time is a very, very significant thing. What has occurred, and it's fascinating, is Joseph, of course, from a few hundred years beforehand, had been mightily moved to save the world. and he had brought his 12 brothers, who were the formation of the 12 tribes of Israel, to this place in Egypt. And God blesses them incredibly and puts them in the best spot of Egypt. And they prosper and they do really well. And 70 of them migrate down and they grow into this mighty nation. And they get prosper so much that the Egyptians around them start fearing them because they start getting so strong, so mighty, so wealthy. And they then begin to start to feel insecure about their own lot and position. And a Pharaoh who does not know the story of Joseph, who has forgotten, and it is one of the turning points for the Jewish culture. They say it's terrible when people forget. People who've walked out of the Holocaust and this sort of stuff really quote that verse, and they forgot what Joseph did. This is a turning point for them. They then begin, the Egyptians, to rise up and turn the people of the Jews into their slaves. These are the people of God who have been called by Abram as descendants of a holy promise that I will turn you into a nation. God has made a covenant with Abram. And here these people of a covenant promise are now serving and building cities for the Egyptians, slave labor, and their lives are commodities. Okay, in terms of the Egyptian eye. They don't have regard for life or death. They kill them. If they get a problem, we kill one, we get another slave to replace that role. They are truly enslaved, and the oppression is big, 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 and put on them and put on them and put on them. And it's in this historical context that interesting, fascinating thing comes where there is a decree to kill all the baby boys. And of course, what happens here is that the midwives honor God and tell the Pharaoh that they don't kill the baby boys when they're coming out. And the Pharaoh says, why don't you kill them? They say, oh, these Hebrew women are strong. They're not like the delicate Egyptian women. They'd get there and they've already had the baby by the time we arrive. And God blesses these women amongst that. As they are preserving families, God blesses their families, which is incredible, as they stand up against the Pharaoh. Well, at this time, Moses is born and his mother hides him for about 3 months. And she notes that he is a most beautiful baby. And she concludes in her heart that this is a special baby, that he has a special calling. And she, of course, prepares an ark of foam, which is very ironic when you think of the ark. The Bible has all this foreshadowing and links through it, and it's a narrative that is incredible. She makes a little ark for him, puts and places her baby, and puts him on the River Nile, which has huge spiritual significance in the Egyptian culture in terms of the Nile and what it can do, and puts him away. Can you imagine a mother doing that to her 3-month-old baby? If I keep him, he dies. If I send him out, he may die, but there is hope that he may live. And of course, he wanders down, we know the story, most of us, that into the hands of the daughter of Pharaoh, who sees him. Of all the women who could have spotted it, of all the people in Egypt that could have spotted it, it is the princess, the Pharaoh's daughter, and she says, oh, what a baby. And of course, Miriam, who's been looking by, says, I have someone who can nurse him for you. Would you like me to put you in touch? And the mother gets to spend extra time with her baby. And Moses means drawing out in the Egyptian language, drawing out of the water, which is ironic because names are so significant in the Bible. Here is a man who will draw out a people from floods of oppression, from a river of oppression. He'll take them into a desert place. And so it's so ironic that as he is saved out of this dangerous place, so he will later draw people out. He then is raised in the Egyptian royal court. He could have been a slave, but now he is raised and gets the finest of education. I mean, he's in the palace. He's sitting there hearing the wisdom of the Egyptians who've built the amazing pyramids, who've built these incredible stuff. They are an empire of their time. You cannot get a university degree of this level, this opportunity that he is getting. He's given responsibility in that kingdom. And yet he comes to this point in his life where he has to make a decision because in his identity he does not fit. He is not fully accepted as an Egyptian in the Egyptian court. And by the Hebrews, his own people, he is not accepted as a Hebrew. He is seen as an Egyptian. Have you ever felt like you don't fit? You don't fit? You need to thank God you don't fit. You need to begin to thank God you don't fit into the mold. Because he put you in that place. He's given you those different things for a reason. Just as he has given it to Moses. You don't fit, and that's okay. When I'm in Australia, I'm not accepted as a full Australian. I'm seen as an American. When I go back to the country of my birth, I'm seen as an Australian and not an American. I don't fit. Any migrants can identify with that who've been here long enough? You don't fit. I thank God now. I've learned to thank God I don't fit. I'm learning to thank him that he has made me unique in that way for some particular reason, purpose. I think differently as a cause, as a reason for that, as a result of that. And there is this conflict of identity and belonging for him. He is given the finest of educations. Is he a Jew or is he an Egyptian? And at this time, it is frustrating sometimes when you don't fit. It is frustrating. Everybody being frustrated by not fitting? You don't know what to do. Do I do this? Do I do that? What culture do I appeal to? Or it may not even be a cultural issue. It might be one of education or class or society. I don't fit, and he's frustrated. But beyond that frustration is this: he has a calling in his life, a gifting in his life of incredible leadership. If you look at the end result of what Moses is to achieve, it's this. He is to lead a nation into a desert. Now think about that for one moment. He's going to deliver them for an oppressive empire. Then he's going to lead a nation through a desert for a while, bring them to the land of promise, and then when they get to the land of promise, he's going to turn them around and say, you can't go in, you're all going to have to die out here. You're going to spend the next 40 years dying off. That takes incredible strength and leadership to do. He has this gift in him, but the frustrating thing for him is he is not, at this time in his life, in that position yet. He is not recognized for that leadership. He does not have the authority yet. He does not have the fruit of his destiny and his calling on his life. And that is a frustrating place to be in. And in that frustration, his heart calls him, am I Jew, am I Egyptian? Who do I identify with? And he makes a decision and kills the Egyptian. And makes a side, and takes a side, and identifies with the Hebrews. He makes a mistake of murder. But God ain't done with him yet. Aren't you glad God can use you despite your mistakes? Ain't done with you yet. I've done it. I've blown it. I've done this and that. Ain't done with you yet. I did this. I did that. I did. But my history says this. I ain't done with you yet. Because there's a calling on him, the deliverer, to walk in his destiny. So what does he do? He flees. He runs. He goes into a harsh place, into a desert where there is lack of life and death, where he's seeking to flourish in this gifting and do that, but it's gotten him in trouble, so he runs. Oh, what a man of faith, staying around and working it out with Pharaoh and perhaps getting inside and working out. But he doesn't. He could have maybe negotiated a thing for the people of Israel to get them and deliver them with the power and position that he'd had in the royal court. But he walks away from the treasures of Egypt and runs. Have you ever run from your calling? Have you ever run from the thing that your destiny? Have you absolutely felt like you've gone the opposite direction? He runs. And then he gets into a place of Midian. So he's neither Jew, not Hebrew, he's not Egyptian, and he's hanging out with Midianites. This man is culturally confused. Where do I belong? And they see him as an Egyptian because he walks like an Egyptian talks like an Egyptian, looks like an Egyptian, smells like an Egyptian, and they see him as an Egyptian. The daughters of Jethro report, we have found this Egyptian. How ironic to be called something you're not when you've taken such a bold step and chosen the other side. And in that frustration, then he's identified as something that he has taken the life of someone else to try to prove that he's not. Life gets cruisy in that desert place. He marries the daughter of Jethro, Zipporah. They start making a family. He's getting on well in the business, his father-in-law's business, looking after the sheep and doing well, and things are cruisy. But it's humbling at the same time. And I dare say that something's going on in this Prince of Egypt's heart, that has seen the cruelty go on and oppression of people to become a leader of sheep. It's no accident that Jesus calls, I am the true shepherd. It's recognized throughout the Bible, the appointment of leadership is for those who tend to sheep. David, the classic king, the big one who had the ministry of destroying the Philistines, is a shepherd boy. We talk a lot about shepherds, even at Christmas time. It's the job that isn't recognized for its glory, but it's the job that requires the heart. To care, to tend. And in that humility, I dare say, out in the desert, looking after sheep, God works on him. So he's 40 years old when he leaves the palace of Egypt. And life's cruising, working, marriage, family, living there. And now he's another 40 years has gone by. So now he's 80. And another disruptor comes along, where he's wandering around with the sheep and notices a burning bush. Now, it wasn't the burning bush that was so much took his attention, because he saw a lot of burning bushes, but it was the fact that it was not consumed by the fire that got his curiosity. This man has been through fire, but has not been consumed by that fire. He's looking at that bush. Bush, I see you. And maybe the bush turned back and says, Moses, I see you. Bush, you aren't burnt. Neither are you. And he's drawn to this bush, and he has his encounter with God. What's fascinating is what encounter this happens. God calls him then onto his life assignment. So here he has been up to this point wrestling with it, wrestling with his identity, wrestling with what God is, knowing that there's this appointment in there. He steps out and takes authority and be the judge between two men. And then his own Jewish brother comes around and twists him and says, who are you? You going to kill me like you did the other one? And doesn't recognize the calling or authority on his life of the position. And he's wandered and wrestled with this. And now he's come to a point where now he's about to step into that authority and the fruit of what he is being destined to do. And what I love, what is fascinating here, is all the things, reasons Moses protests and says why he cannot do his assignment. I can't do it because of this. It's fascinating to see what he puts in and what he leaves out. In fact, let's have a look at it, shall we? There are three things just before this that Moses has to have line up. This is just before I get into this next part. Three things that have to line up for Moses. One, his God-given talent. He will later lead an entire nation out of slavery through a desert for 40 years towards a destiny, only to tell them later they need to turn around because of their disobedience and die in the desert until the next generation is ready. This will take incredibly strong leadership. You see, God has put in you a talent that nobody else has, something that comes really easy for you, something that you see, something that is a gift and you don't even know it sometimes or recognize it as a gift because it happens so easily for you. You think nothing of it. And yet if somebody else was trying to copy and do that, it would be a mimic and can't do it just as well as you do because you are you. Cool. Embrace it. Embrace it because God has done that. The second thing that he needs is the training. And he gets that in the royal court of Egypt. While he may be wondering, what on earth am I here for? What am I doing? He gets the most incredible teaching on how to lead a nation. So there's a part in your life where you have had the training to do what it is God has you to do or wants you to do. And there are times where you've questioned, what am I doing here? Why am I doing this? And it's almost like you've been doing your apprenticeship in God. And what's been occurring is you've been getting your God-given training. And you may not see the fruit of it or what it is you're meant to do, but God has been there, ensuring you do that. And the funny thing is, he's got a way of getting you out of that school of training when the door needs to close. Just as he did with Moses. Boom, you've graduated. You've killed a man, get out. And it may not be the graduation ceremony that you expect, but God has a way of propelling you into the next stage of your life. And the third part that has to occur here is a God-given commissioning of the assignment. A God-given commissioning of the assignment. So we've got the natural talent, we've got the training, and now we have the God-given commissioning of the assignment. Moses transforms from prince to shepherd boy, leads sheep around the desert, lives the comfortable life. God calls Moses, and what's fascinating here is all the reasons Moses comes up with and why he should not do his assignment. In Exodus 3, verse 11, but Moses said to God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and that I should bring the children of Israel out of Egypt? Who am I to do such a thing like this? Now, I don't know about you, but I think I would have been absolutely terrified to do Moses' assignment as well. To go up, confront Pharaoh, the empire leader, to then have to lead people out. I would have had a few questions too, wouldn't you? But he goes, who am I? Who am I? Who am I to do this? Before he felt ready to lead people and be their judge while still in Egypt, he now feels totally inadequate to lead his people at the time of his God-given download. He was self-appointed at the time. I will be the judge amongst you. How can I help you? Stop fighting amongst yourselves. Who are you to be judging us? And now he's going, who am I, Lord, to be assigned? God reassures him. God gives him answers. The second thing he questions, so he questions his God-given ability, his qualifications, his identity. Who am I? And then in verse 13 of chapter 3, then Moses said to God, indeed, when I come to the children of Israel and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they say to me, what is his name? What shall I say to them? He questions whether anyone will follow him, the authority he stands on, and where he comes from. Who endorses him? You see, you've got to understand that the Egyptians at this time had so many names for all their deities, and God then answers him with the all-powerful, all-knowing response of, I am who I am. I will be who you need me to be. And he says, not only has I am sent you, he says to Moses, but you shall say to the children of Israel, I am the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob has sent me from generation to generation, my name forever, a memorial to all generations. He's saying to him, my call is bigger than just where I came from. It's for you, not just today. It was for you yesterday, and it'll also be there for you tomorrow. I am who I am. I surpass all deities. Wow. My friends, sometimes you've got to recognize who you serve, because I find so many Christians don't recognize who they serve. Walk around, this bugged me, this came up, freak out. Oh, this happened and that happened. They absolutely get freaked out and don't rise up in the authority that God has put upon them. I am who I am. You serve the name above all names, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. Wake up to how big and powerful your God is. And what's more is he takes it a step further. Check it out. He says, in verse 4, verse 1, then Moses answered and said, but suppose they will not believe or listen to my voice. Suppose they say the Lord has not appeared to you. So the Lord said to him, what is in your hand? He said, a rod. So God then takes Moses and he endorses him. He gives him the authority. But then he also puts something in his hand. And so many of you don't recognize that God has put something in your hand. It's the same when the woman, do you remember the story of the woman who the creditors are coming for her sons because she owes so much money, and the prophet says to her, what is in your house? And she says, a jar of oil. He says, great. Go borrow all the jars in the neighborhood, everyone that you can collect, knock on all the doors, shut your doors, and pour that oil. And what happens? Pour. They fill all the jars with this little bit of oil. A miracle occurs. And she says, I've done it. He goes, go out, sell it, and pay off your debts. And your sons will be saved, and there is more left over to live on. An abundance. God always uses what is in your hand. And for Moses, it's a shepherd's staff. And it's this staff. What does the staff do? Guides. It directs. It keeps the sheep in and out, getting into trouble. And this is what this leader will do with his children of Israel. And so God takes that ability, that skill, that symbol of what he does with sheep, and he takes it, and this staff will then turn into a serpent and be what it needs to be when he needs to impress that I come from the all-powerful God to the children of Israel and their elders and their leaders. It will be that as well when he enters Pharaoh's court, that I can outdo your magicians and your soothsayers. It's the same staff that will part the Red Sea when they are cornered and have the whole entire army of Egypt chasing them down. And they are cornered, and what do I do? And it's the same thing in his hand that will later bring life and sustenance to the children of Israel when they lack water, and he is told to strike the rock, and water will flow and save a nation. What is it that you have in your hand, my friend? What is it that God has put in your hand? For him, it was a humble piece of wood. What has he put in your hand? I remember when I broke up with my business partner, had no business, no leads, no nothing, and I had to ask, what is it, God, you have put in my hand? He showed me 3 things and said, put them together. Showed me 3 things I had. You have specialized knowledge. You have the ability to present and the experience to present, and you know how to work with web people and designers. Put them together. So I did. What is it that you have in your hand? God never leaves you empty-handed for your assignment. Wow. Moses questions his ability and skill in 4 verse 10. Then Moses said to the Lord, "Oh my Lord, I am not eloquent, neither before in this sense you have spoken to your servant, but I am slow of speech and slow of tongue. I'm a terrible talker." And God says, "Who's made man's mouth? I am the one who made your mouth, given you your health. I am the one who's given you your health." Who is the one who's given it to you? Trust him with it. Trust him with it. But it's not good enough. Trust him with it. And he gives him a helper, his brother Aaron. And finally, 13, after all this endorsement, all the promises, God goes into great detail and even tells them, you're going to have oppression against Pharaoh. You're going to have oppression against the Egyptians, but you will plunder them and you will walk away with the wealth. The women of Israel will go to the other women and they will take from them, and you will walk out rich and wealthy from this oppression. And even with all these promises and assurance, I am who I am. I'm all-powerful God. I will be with you. Moses says, can you send someone else? Why me? Of course, none of you have ever asked God that. So he's had the inbuilt design of his DNA to lead people. He's had training like no one else. He's most qualified. He's had moments where the heart has changed. His qualification of the heart has... So he's had the head, knowledge, and then the heart of being a shepherd. And he comes to that point of calling, of God-given appointment to assignment, and he says, can you send someone else? And the problem is, no one else is more qualified than Moses to do this assignment. And the problem is, my friend, no one else is more qualified to do your God-given assignment. You're it. And the world needs you to do it because it's dying. The church needs you to do it because he needs you to function in that. And God needs you to do it so that he can bring the kingdom of heaven to this earth, because he wants to do it through little you. But he's bigger than you. And he says, I want to pour my spirit into you and operate on the level where he says to Moses, Pharaoh will see you. You will be as God to Pharaoh. In other words, he will see you as deity. That's endorsement. That the enemy will see you as deity. All-powerful. You talk about weapons of mass destruction. You underrate your God and the authority he's put on you. And I believe that many of you this year have been frustrated because you know the call deep within, but you haven't seen the fruits of it. You haven't seen the fruition of it, the results of it, the endorsement of that authority and assignment. And God is now saying to you, in this coming season, in this next year, you're going to start seeing the appointment of you into that and fruit of that and authority of that as you live out your assignment. Get ready for change. Get ready for change. Get ready for change. Because it's time to do your assignment. It's time to finish your assignment. I remember Pastor Don seeing our dear brother Mark Goldstone in his last days and reporting that even Mark was still living out his assignment on his deathbed, encouraging, talking about God and the things. You aren't done till you can't breathe anymore. I don't care how sick you are. I do care how sick you are, but hear my heart. There is no excuse for not finishing your assignment. This man is 80 years old when he's told, now go to Egypt and deliver Israel. He's 80. Do it. Do it. Do it. What's your excuse? If God hasn't told you to wait, do it. Sometimes he specifically says wait, but unless he specifically said wait, do it. Get on with it. Our time is short. We don't have time to muck around. Do it. Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for the opportunity to serve you. You're a good God. We praise you. I believe today is the day of endorsement by God. He's saying to you today, go, do it. And you know what you got to do. But Lord, this. But Lord, that. But Lord, what about this? And who am I? And he reassures you all the steps that are needed is to just say, Lord, yes, I'll do it and put it into action. Today is the day of reckoning. Today is the day of commissioning. Today is the day he says, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. And the question is, do you say, yes, Lord? Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. We need you to say, yes, Lord.